so many different assets to design. And I would say like design is like all things but buildings, which is architecture. That's kind of the best way that I could describe it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the 52 Launch Podcast. This is episode number 16, I want to say. I'm Evan Johnson, making another reoccurrence here, and we have a new person here of 52, or a new person on the podcast, a very old member of 52 Launch. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Luke Morrow. Great to be on the podcast.
Yeah. So I kind of pulled Luke onto here because we've mentioned it in the past between Peter, Dan, myself. There's a few people that go above and beyond 52 in general. We have our own side hustles, little projects on the side and everything that go on after hours. But a lot of us are really dedicated to getting better at what we do and improving. And I want to pull Luke on because he has a couple different avenues that he's doing on the after hour side of things. Don't want to go too much into detail, but really into sneaker culture and everything, and buying and reselling. And then also you just did more of a branding page with one of your really big hobbies of mountain biking. So I just want to really break those down because I think they're obtainable to the average person, and that's what we're trying to really culture here, is encouraging entrepreneurs and everything to more get into this space of you don't have to be 24/7 staying up till like midnight to work on a side project. It can be a kind of slow and go with the flow style, and that's honestly more realistic, I feel, for the general person. But we'll get into that a little bit more. But yeah, you want to start with more like what's your experience and everything? You're a designer here at 52.
Absolutely. Yeah. So over here at 52, you know, I'm the head graphic designer. It's a little weird to say, but yeah, I kind of, you know, lead all things graphics here. You know, I help with logos, the branding, you know, help design packaging, you know, website layout, graphics, Instagram posts, photography. You know, definitely have my hand in a lot of things here.
Yeah. But yeah, you're really one of the creative person over here on the marketing team, all things considered. So that's more of a question that I wanted to brought up, is that obviously you have a very strong like fashion sense and everything, and like your sneaker game is on a level most people would dream of.
Thank you.
So do you feel like ultimately your time in design has kind of drawn you to sneakers, or did sneakers really come first and then design kind of followed?
Yeah. Sneakers for sure came first.
Okay.
You know, started in high school.
Oh, nice.
Probably, you know, influence from my brother. You know, older brother, 5 years older. So he, you know, he started getting shoes, and I was like, oh wow, these are, you know, those are pretty cool. And then you know, from there, it started getting Nikes, and
okay, yeah.
it's just like exploded really ever since I was probably about like 13 or 14. You know, had my mom drive me to rent them outlets over in Massachusetts, and you know, get my first pair.
Yeah. What was there like a pair of shoes that like you're just like, this is like my first nice pair of shoes that you got?
Yeah, those were the Jordan 6 Oreos.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Those are just like based on like, you know, the Oreo.
Yeah.
Like the, you know, great snack. So yeah, those were what got me into it.
Oh, nice. And your brother, is there something that like he really focused on while he was collecting or anything, or is it just a little bit of everything?
I specifically remember him doing a drawing of a pair of shoes that he got also from the Rent Them outlets.
Okay.
And love that place, by the way.
Yeah, not a plug for them, but
but yeah, I remember him having that drawing and the shoes. I was like, wow, this is like really cool. And yeah, I just got into it, and then I found out there was a way to make money with sneakers, believe it or not. It wasn't very popular back then, but now it's exploded into a whole new world.
All right. And so I guess that kind of answered the question of what came first, the chicken or the egg in the situation. Do you feel like that ultimate kind of eye for creative designs and everything really push you down the path of design more?
Absolutely. I didn't really know what design was in high school. You know, I liked drawing occasionally. I wasn't the best drawer. But in like sneakers, I liked the design of sneakers. And then, you know, I found industrial design. I was like, and that was, you know, that was designing sneakers.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, wow, I can design sneakers? Like, that is so cool.
Yeah. And break down, like, what is industrial design? To, like, I feel like the average person wouldn't know what's the difference between that and an engineer or a manufacturer or something like
Absolutely. Yeah, industrial design, it's a super broad term, for sure. But, you know, it encompasses, it's cheesy to say, but, you know, all things design.
Yeah.
But, you know, in school, I went to school at Wentworth, and, you know, we learn a lot of different things. So industrial design is, you know, it's all of these facets of design, like, you know, going from sketching, ideation, your ideas, you know, going from the computer to computer-aided drawings, you know, CAD, SolidWorks. You know, you have your soft goods, your hard goods. So there's like so many different assets to design. And I would say like design is like all things but buildings, which is architecture. That's kind of the best way that I could describe it.
Yeah, so when people ultimately go into that path, do you feel like they often pick a kind of subcategory of something in there and that's what they follow, or do you feel like there are people that are broad industrial designers?
For the most part, it's ideal to kind of pinpoint that direction, and you learn what you like the best, you know, through that process of, you know, sketching or, you know, bringing it to the computer and doing CAD, you know, actually crafting or model making as well. So you'd usually find like a certain niche that you enjoy, that you're good at, and you excel in that realm.
Okay. So was that, like, when you got into design, was that probably like one of the end goals, or maybe is that still the end goal, is to get with some sort of sneaker brand and do more of the creative aspect, design aspect?
So that was definitely, you know, going into it was like a dream job would be, you know, designing sneakers. And actually, you know, I got a job out of school, you know, designing shoes, and it, you know, it was kids footwear, so it wasn't necessarily ideal, but you know, it was a jumping off point. So I still haven't quite gotten that dream job of like, okay, I designed this shoe and like now I'm wearing this shoe. So I haven't done that quite yet, but it was a great experience. And I do not work with sneakers, obviously, you know, here at 52 Launch, but you know, I love what we do here. We work with so many different avenues, and every day is, you know, changing. The products are so different. So I really do love, you know, design, period. All parts of it. There's really something beautiful about everything.
Yeah, so I mean, 52 Launch aside, like, say you're a 40-year professional in the field, like, what would you want to be doing? Would it be sneakers? Would it be something different, a more expansive field, like with variety here at 52, for example? Or
I think the variety definitely helps. Sneakers, you know, big passion, but you know, what's the saying where, you know, when you do your passion and then you're doing work, it's like you kind of lose that motivation because it all blends together. So I kind of like, you know, having the sneakers be separate as like a side thing that I do. You know, whether it's drawing them, whether it's buying, selling. So I think ultimately, honestly, keep doing what I'm doing until, you know, the fuel runs out. But you know, right now the tank is full.
Yeah, nice. And I guess this might be a weird question, but in terms of kind of like reselling sneakers and everything, that's not something that I know an awful lot about. Like, is that something that like some people do full time? Like, I imagine that is.
It's nuts. People make, you know, 6 figures selling shoes. Like, strictly that is their business, is to buy the shoes that come out.
Yeah, the limited edition runs and everything.
And they flip them, you know, the day of, the next day. And there's a lot of money in the sneaker world, and it's growing right now at a rapid pace for sure. Yeah,
with like hip hop culture and everything in the past few years, I feel like that really pushed this out. Where like probably 10 years ago, I didn't know that this was even a thing, even though it probably was.
Hip hop and, you know, sports really exploded sneakers as well.
Michael Jordans and everything.
Basketball shoes, you know, they're still in, but you know, hip hop is definitely influencing a lot of that culture right now as well.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's more of a facet that I didn't really understand. I assume people that are watching didn't fully comprehend, like, what is the money there, and that kind of proves it. And I mean, we've seen a lot of I feel like every other week we probably see like a new celebrity deal or something kind of going on with a limited edition run, like ranging anywhere from like Kanye all the way to like not Lil Nas now. Like they've all, controversy aside, they've all got like their own thing going on where they're trying to pitch something.
Controversy is great too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, his shoes sold out like immediately. And I even feel like more people are going into shoes than like fashion and everything. You might have another opinion on that, but I feel like most celebrities, that's the avenue they're going right now.
Yeah, I think shoes are it's definitely like the jumping off point. You know, I got into shoes and then, you know, slowly turned into, you know, okay, now I have nice shoes, but like my clothes don't really match my shoes really well. So that's where that expanded. But I think the shoes are just like the easiest way to connect because, you know, obviously everyone needs a pair of shoes and like, you know, the price point being high for, you know, most people, you know, $150 to $200 a shoe is, you know, it's, some people say high. For me, that's, you know, standard.
Yeah.
That's baseline. But, you know, it's like something that I could buy and then you see that rapper wearing or, you know, that musician, you know, wearing the shoe and you're like, wow, like I, you know, have the same clothing article as this, you know, famous person that I admire and look up to.
Yeah. And I feel like that really has come into a full with like this new age of like celebrities really are something in like the public eye. Like maybe sure actors and everything like back in like the 90s and everything were still prominent, but like modern day I feel like a celebrity is a much broader thing, and like your role models are no longer like that guy that you studied your trade under. It's now like whatever celebrity that you've really been following since you're a kid and the music you've been listening to.
Yeah. The influence on those, you know, higher ups, I guess you call them. But, it's crazy. And, you know, like aside from sneakers, even just like, you know, Elon Musk and the power that he has with cryptocurrency and the stock market and whatnot, it's that just makes it, you know, more evident that it's
I mean you call out a cryptocurrency, it went up. You install the cryptocurrency, it went up. Like
have his tweets on notifications.
You can make a quick turnaround there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting in terms of how that has really come kind of tenfold. The celebrities kind of getting, it's a good point of like, I feel like a lot of kids now really do want to wear what the celebrities are wearing. And I feel like that's also something that they've done really well, even like all the way back to like Michael Jordan's and everything, is that like taking what was a super designer shoe and now making it like commercially viable. I say commercial in quotations there, but I feel like everybody to some extent buys a higher end product that ultimately fuels their happiness or gives them some amount of comfort.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know it's a different ballpark, but like all of my shoes are like leather shoes that I spend like easily $200-300 on. But I was also taught at like a young age that like you can keep leather shoes forever, and like I have like the boots that I'm wearing right now are like 10 years old or something like that. Just keeping them up and everything. So I feel like there's a lot of investments like that like people are just like, oh, why would you ever put that into it? And I'm just like, makes me happy.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like people, you know, why do you have so many shoes? It's like, well, one, I'm addicted. And
hey, at least you admit it.
Yeah, that's for sure. And, you know, it's just something it's unique to you. You know, I put those sneakers on, you know, in the morning. I'm like, oh yes, like I love the way these look on my feet. You know, that's the same way for, you know, your 10-year-old boots. You're like, you know, these things are fantastic. They're holding up. And I wouldn't say the same for, you know, a 10-year-old pair of sneakers. They're probably, you know, crumble. Yeah,
but it's a different kind of commodity there for sure. And I feel even more with like, I don't mean it in like a bad way, but like the modern take of like masculinity is so much different than it was like early 2000s and everything. I feel like back then, like if a guy was wearing like really colorful shoes or anything, like that would be just completely out of the norm and probably shunned a little bit. And like now, like you can wear whatever you want. Like people really admire it and say that like, it looks really good and in style.
Absolutely. You know, I get made fun of, you know, by the two bosses here when I wear shoes with pink laces.
And a little bit of a cultural divide there. They're older. We're definitely on the younger side for sure.
They're just jealous.
Yeah, but I imagine on the other end that like a lot of people probably compliment you on your shoes. Like I see people in office complimenting you pretty often. So I feel like that's a very interesting kind of turnaround there. And even just the clothing and cuts and everything that we use now. It's no longer kind of form fitting and like dress.
Yeah, this is.
A lot of things
I'm
like
wearing a
baggies
box.
in style now and everything.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's really taking a 180. I want to kind of circle back in terms of like buying and reselling the shoes. How did you really come about to that point and decide like, oh, maybe I could resell these and make a quick buck or something like that?
I think it was just, my brother, again, a big influence there.
Yeah.
We use eBay, in the early days, we've been on eBay for like 15 years.
Yeah. Was that just because it was like super easy or like the tax benefits or?
That was just really the only platform. I mean, at the time, actually, now that I remember, I used to do it was like a lot of Craigslist.
Oh, yeah.
I did a lot of tons of
Haven't
Craigslist.
heard that in a long time.
Yep. A lot of Craigslist deals, posting the shoes and, they would sell out and, you had them and you posted them and someone else wanted them for a higher price.
Yeah.
And that has become the norm now. So, yeah, Craigslist and eBay were two of the big starters.
So did your brother like kind of sit down with you and kind of teach you the process, or was it something like you saw him doing it and then you tried to like copy it on your own?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that because, I saw him do it and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I want to get involved. And I started doing my own thing and then I just took it to the whole next level. He is not even like into shoes like that anymore. I get him, he dabbles in it still.
Yeah.
But, I just really took that to the whole next level and I started making money on it. In high school, it was nice to, I would just flip shoes. I didn't necessarily work. I had my jobs here or there, but for the most part, like
you didn't have to do like a part-time throughout all of high school.
I did the part-time so I could buy shoes.
Yeah.
But for the most part, especially in college, like flipping shoes was huge. That's how I paid for my food and going out and everything.
Yeah. No, I imagine there's probably a pretty good thing there. Yeah, that's pretty cool though. Like it started off as kind of like a generational thing between you and your brother, and then you're like, I'm doing it bigger and better.
Pretty much, yeah.
So does he still like kind of contact you whenever he wants a new pair or something?
Yep. He does,
okay.
Yeah. He goes in waves. He sees my shoes. He's like, oh man, I really want those. And then, so he's in and out of it.
Yeah. Family meetings, like just eyeing you up, just be like, I want a pair.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
It's funny.
Yeah. And so you said it in college that really became like a big thing for you. Like, tell me, how did other people really like look at that? Like, did many people in your friend circle know you did that, and like, how did they view you?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that. So I'll bring that back to high school. In high school, since it was still like kind of new.
Yeah.
At least for a lot of people, I wouldn't say I got made fun of, but like there was people talking like, oh, this like look at his shoes. Like, why does he have so many shoes? Like, those things are weird and crazy, and people.
You were different, and people were afraid.
Yeah, they I wouldn't say I got made fun of because I didn't. I didn't take any offense to it because I liked what I did, and but they made remarks about my shoes and how many I had and stuff like that. But it was funny. Then 2 years later, they're into it too. So
yeah, you just caught onto it so much earlier.
Yeah, it definitely was something I got early invested in, and it definitely paid off for sure.
Yeah, and in terms of like when you moved up into like college and everything, do you feel like people's demeanors kind of flip-flopped a little bit more? Or
Absolutely. It was just becoming more known to the public.
Yeah.
That shoes were like, you were able to resell like sneakers. Even still today, like people don't know, but it's become so much more popular.
Yeah,
it's really insane. I remember the days, I would camp out in line I would literally get to the store in Boston. I would drive from Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I'd get to the store 8 p.m. and the shoes come out at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
I would camp overnight. I'd bring a chair, meet some people, bring a blanket. And sleep and talk to people and just camp out literally all night to get those shoes in the morning.
Yeah. So like, ultimately I'm looking at this from like, say if someone wanted to get into the same kind of buy and sell trade, like what would be like your number one recommendation in terms of like, you got to get into this, either like you should always look out for this classic shoe, or like whenever you're doing this, don't make this mistake.
Yeah. So that's like, I mean, for me, it's easy at this point, but for the newcomer, it's kind of hard. The styles are always like changing.
Yeah.
Whether Nike, kind of sets those styles, different story, whole different topic. But, the style of shoe is always ever changing as to what's popular. There's this term, hype beast.
Yeah.
That's like, a term where it's like, okay, you're buying the latest, the newest stuff that's out, and like you're you don't necessarily like it. You're just buying it because like it's what everybody else likes.
Yeah.
So honestly, the hyped stuff is the stuff that is like selling the most, that gets like the most, eyeballs on it, that, if you buy it, you could post it on eBay or StockX in, 10 minutes and it will be sold that same exact day that you buy that shoe. And you can make $100, and depending on the availability of that shoe, you can make, upwards to $1,000 on one pair of shoes.
Yeah. Nice. And like, what would you say is like the biggest like mistake either in like a type of shoe that like a lot of people are saying like will do well, and you're just like, no, it won't, or something like that? That's kind of popped up.
That would be like if you see, a shoe coming out and if you're not into it, like fully invested, and you're just kind of unsure, and you're like, oh, I think these will do good because, it has this name attached to it.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the sneaker community just like, those aren't it. That's the best way to describe it. And then you kind of get stuck with like, buying a shoe for $250, and you either make no money, or you have to hold it, or you have to return it, whatever it may be. But for the most part, usually, depending on what shoe it is, you kind of have to know what's going to sell out and what's not going to sell out. Like if you go to like Nike.com and you go look at like, a blazer or something, and you buy that, like there's no chance of you like reselling that shoe. That's just, a shoe that's like sits on the website. It may be nice, and it may be, your favorite, but it's not necessarily, that word hype. That's going to sell.
And do you feel like whenever you're really getting into this, that people kind of go down that mindset initially, like thinking that like they could just buy any old shoe and resell it? Do you think that's a common thing?
I just had a friend text me yesterday saying, how do I get into sneaker reselling? Literally yesterday. I'm like, oh, okay. Man, like, like they all want to know like my tips and tricks, and I'm willing to help out, but at the same time, I've been in this for,
it's natural to you. Yeah,
for over 10 years. So it's like they want me to give all that information away. Yeah,
so it sounds like it's a pretty cliche thing, like you have to be passionate about it to do well in it.
Absolutely, I think so. I mean, it's just more fun that way. I mean, if you're good at it and you don't like sneakers, that's actually the best, because then you can just sell every shoe.
Oh yeah, you don't have to keep any.
Yeah, the problem with me is I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna wear this one, and I get it. I'm like, oh no, I need to wear these, and then that's it. And then they're in my collection.
So do you feel like when you're ordering shoes, you'll often like order it in your size just in case like that pops up?
Also a great question. So the best way for me to not wear it is to not get it in my size.
Yeah, okay, that's what I
typically
figured.
I would say like 80% of the time I want it in my size.
Yeah.
Or also another factor is like sizes. Like if it's like a size 6.5 versus like a size 12, that 6.5 might sell for $300 more than that size 12.
Yeah.
Why that is, I really don't know. I think maybe just people with smaller feet want that shoe more often. I'm not really sure why some sizes go for, hundreds of dollars more than other sizes, but that is a thing.
Yeah, I mean, we could, here at 52, we could probably put together like a long list of things why we think that is, either the size demographics or anything, or like production orders. Like they just order way less of like a 6.5. 6.5 to me like says like that's a really small shoe. So maybe because supply and demand there, so those prices just go way up. But like a size 12, I'm just like, yeah, I know a bunch of people that wear a size 12.
Yeah, but it's like strange because like, a certain brand will be more expensive in the higher sizes than a different brand. I haven't cracked that code, but it's definitely interesting.
So is it, when you see that popping up, is it just sort of like a feeling on a case by case basis? Can you kind of feel it out at this point, or?
Yeah, I mean, I know the styles enough to where, where the higher sizes are going to be worth more than the lower sizes. But it does vary, and sometimes you miss the ball, and you're like, if I got that other size, I would have had $100 more.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is what it is, and you take your wins. Can't be too greedy.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've ever had like a really, really bad blunder in terms of getting something?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, back in the day, before all the internet was involved with sneakers, on Craigslist, you get fakes.
No, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you're unsure if it's real or not, and like on Craigslist, you're meeting up with a person, and you kind of look at the shoe, and if you don't know your stuff, you can get burned. Like I got burned trying to do a trade actually, but through like online. I was sending the shoe to this kid in Florida, and he was supposed to send me a shoe back.
Yeah.
And I sent him the shoe, and he never sent me my shoe.
Yeah.
But I actually was very lucky, and I sent it to like apparently a different address that wasn't his. So his plan was to go pick up that shoe at this person's house, but that person was home that day.
Oh.
So they got the shoe. They're like, we didn't buy these shoes. And they found, my name was in the package, and like they've reached out to me. They were like, hey, like we got these shoes. Like I think you sent to the wrong address. Or like, oh, like I was like, oh my God, like what?
Yeah.
I got blessed, and
yeah.
so yeah, almost got scammed, but didn't. But I have been scammed before, so it happens. That's for sure. You live and you learn.
Yeah. And this is more on like a branding page. Like, do you have Instagram accounts or anything of where you like do your buy and resell or
for sneakers? No, I never got into Instagram. That was definitely a mistake where I should have, got into it a lot earlier.
Is there like a way that people can reach out to you or anything, or is it more of a local basis?
Nope. I stick to eBay. This
nice.
new website called StockX. That one's super easy to sell on. But yeah, just the eBay, and then Facebook Marketplace as well.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just take a look there. And kind of pivoting more in like the design aspect, or I wouldn't say recent, but started up a more Instagram page now saying Average Mountain Guys.
Absolutely.
You want to kind of talk a little bit more about like what that is exactly?
So Average Mountain Guys is, that's a little brand that I started, very small, it's just kind of like friends and family, tight knit right now. But, I just love, I love the mountains, snowboarding, mountain biking, hiking, anything to do with, being outside in nature in the mountains is really what I do every single weekend. If I, wasn't working, or if I could choose whatever I wanted to do in life, it definitely would be, live in a mountain town and just mountain bike and snowboard as much as I can. So Average Mountain Guys is just, I'm not pro by any means.
Yeah.
That's a dream of mine. If I had a dream, if I can like restart life, it'd be like, a Red Bull athlete, to be, mountain biker, snowboard, whatever it is, Red Bull, awesome. The stuff they do is super cool. So I was like, one day it was just, I'm just average, like, and then, like and that's kind of how it formed, just like friends and family going to the mountains, and like, how can, obviously the design aspect. So, I do logos and branding and stuff like that. So I was like, how can we, start our own brand, that we could wear our own stuff. Kind of like a life is good scenario, like Average Mountain Guys, kind of our tagline is, let's get lost. So, just like a community, nothing like, not pushing any sort of product or anything, but just pushing the fact that, let's get outside in nature and, have fun. It's okay if you're, not the best, but it's what we love to do.
And in terms of kind of creating that, did it start off more as like a casual posting thing, or did it start off more as like, I want to build a brand out of this eventually?
So it actually previously started, I wanted to build a brand in college. I was, being into fashion, into clothing. I started this like other brand, which I won't say the name because it's no longer existing. But, I started that, and like, I just realized it was just like, it was so much work to really start this brand up. I wanted to push it really hard, but like, I just found myself like, you come home from work and you kind of just drained. And you're like, oh, I'll do it another day. And then, that day comes and you don't do it that day. So that you just keep kind of pushing it aside. So it kind of started with like, doing that brand. And then it was like, okay, but I love the mountains. Like, this is what I want to do. And that's kind of what was getting in the way of that previous brand. Was like, the passion for the mountains. And I just want to, ride all the time and not have to focus on like, sitting by my sewing machine trying to sew some hats or shirts. And I was like, man, I don't want to be doing, like, I love the hands-on stuff and it's fun, but ultimately I just want to, get out and enjoy life. But I still want to do this like brand scenario. I have all these great ideas in my head of like cool styles and like awesome sayings, and so that's kind of how Average Mountain Guy started. Was like, I wanted this brand, but I want to incorporate it into my everyday life, and like, how can I start something that I won't feel bogged down by. And that's kind of how Average Mountain Guys began.
Yeah, and I actually want to commend you there. Like, my background is more in kind of creative and everything, on kind of production. And I've sat down with like a lot of YouTubers and blog posts and podcasters and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like that's a really common thing is you get so invested into this thing and then you start up on the hobby, and that hobby is like what's really calling you. And like I feel like most people look at that and they're just like, I gotta pick one, instead of saying maybe let's find the best of both worlds and like pivoting. It's like people want to go down with the ship. But like your case is like a perfect example of kind of finding what's that middle line that you could really walk down and still be happy, and still kind of work towards something.
Yeah, and the goal with Average Mountain Guys is not to I'm not looking to quit my job and start that full time. It is strictly like it's a side thing that I like doing. I have to like to do it, because if I don't like to do it, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna just go mountain bike. I'm just gonna go snowboard. But that way, if with Average Mountain Guys, I could do these things, but still have a brand and still I can build content while riding.
Yeah.
And still, honestly, that's even hard. Like I'm still doing my hobby, and like we're like, oh, we need this, we should get this shot. We're like, oh, we'll do it next run. And then we just like, oh, next run.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, we're just still riding, and like we didn't get that content. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm fine with it, because I still was out enjoying.
Way more fun doing it.
Yeah, still out enjoying life.
Yeah.
And that's really what I'm looking to do.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people could probably relate to that, is that kind of crossroads of I've got like a small business that I probably want to start up, but also have like a hobby that's like sucking up all my free time, ranging from like mountain biking. Maybe you're an outdoorsman, maybe you're someone that's like super into video games or anything like that. I feel like there's a lot of those cases where hobbies just take up a lot of our time because they make us really happy.
Yeah.
And then I feel like, especially in our generation, like most people want to do some small business on their own, but they really don't pursue it because hobbies are really what's making them happy.
Absolutely. And I think it's like, a lot about your personality and the way you kind of hold yourself, and I guess is the way to, what I want to say. But what I'm really trying to get across is that, I'm a hard worker when it comes down to it, but when it comes down to, outside of work, I want to just, enjoy life and have that freedom. Some people can just like continue to work.
Yeah, you work to live. You don't live to work.
Exactly. So with like, Average Mountain Guys, the idea is that I can do both. I don't really I want to pursue this, but at the same time I want to enjoy life. So if you're one of those people who can like, not worry about, I guess, enjoying life, or the way that you enjoy life is hard work, then that's fantastic. That's the mindset I'm trying to get into, where it's like, okay, let's do some more work after work, but that's hard to do.
Yeah, and like I'm gonna be completely open here. I ended up doing the opposite, and it ended pretty poorly for me. Like the old business that I used to run, TU Video, like that started off really as like a big hobby. I did it for like a few small businesses and productions and everything, and then kind of off to the side, I had a bunch of hobbies going on. Like I'm super into technology, rock climbing, all that kind of stuff, and I did some of those professionally for a while. But eventually it came to a point that I'm just like, am I gonna chase that small little business that was a hobby but now is a business, or am I gonna follow like something that I'm really happy with? And I ended up chasing that business. And I feel like ultimately, financially it went okay, that's for sure. But ultimately what came about is like there were multiple times in there that like I was really depressed because like I didn't want to do it. But it was like, okay, I gotta build this small business up, that way I eventually can pass this off to kids or whatever, and have a legacy there. But in that process, like I was so unhappy, and I feel like there's a lot of people in that situation where like they just have to follow the money. Like what's that the golden handcuffs, is that like whenever you get like a lot of money, either from like a job or something, that you kind of up your lifestyle to kind of live with it, and then now you need the job to live, and you can't do it the other way around.
Absolutely. That's great that you mentioned that. Just the fact that you mentioned that you failed first and then figured that out and kept going, and then you got to this point where you wanted to be at, and you're like, wait, I'm still not at my best that I really could be, or that I want to be.
Like TU could have gone on for like many years and been like a full thing. Like we were challenging Verizon for a little bit in terms of the commercial department, but like really what broke that straw is like I got an offer like last August, I want to say, and then I saw that offer, and then that's when it really sad, and I'm just like, I'm not happy doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sure, I'm gonna sell this because I'm gonna be so much happier doing something else.
Absolutely. And are you happier now?
Yeah, I would say I'm happier. I actually have time to like spend time with my loved ones and all the
Mhm.
animals and everything, and I can go rock climbing and play video games or whatever the hell I want to do.
Absolutely.
It's just way more chill, which I think most people can't really find right now, or they're struggling to find it.
Mhm.
And part of it, I think, is just because like how backwards society is right now, or like the older people are telling the younger people, oh, you got to go out and make all that money and get everything set
Yeah.
up. And then like I feel like more and more like millennials and kind of younger folk are getting to the point they're just like, yeah, money's cool. If we could get enough to survive, that would be really cool, but we really just want to be happy.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And for me at least, and it seems like that's the way you kind of I mean, even though we're still young, you know,
Yeah.
we're kind of realizing that, you know, life is important, and it's important to be happy, and
Yeah.
you know, not get tied down, and yeah, just do what you actually love to do.
Yeah, and say like if we were 20, like 30 years ago, I feel like the average person back then, they would get into like their 40s before like they called it a midlife crisis. What that really was is just like someone's really fucking down and they need like to find happiness in their life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then now people are like, in our age, are like more going into that like their 20s and everything, and really
Mhm.
getting to that point they're just like, this isn't working, I gotta fix it.
Yeah.
Which I guess is cool, because I think we're, especially now, I feel like we're getting so many like diverse small businesses and everything,
Mhm.
that are really doing their own thing, like using sneakers or using like Twitch streaming or even podcasting. Like you go back a while ago, like most people would say like, no, that could never be a thing.
Yeah.
And like I see like on I see on TikTok all the time, like there's a bunch of like boutiques that have like opened up purely around like metal straws and stuff. And like that's an example of like something that if you told me
Yeah.
that 10 years ago, I'm just like, no, that would never be a thing. But like now it is.
Absolutely. There's YouTube. There's 12-year-olds making millions of dollars
yeah.
playing video games.
Yeah. It's absolutely insane, but I also feel like it's heading in a good direction, because I feel like the next generation that's coming is going to be coming into a place where like their parents and everything were the people that grew up and like realized this so much earlier.
Mhm.
And hopefully they don't repeat the sins of their parents and everything and try to push off the same agenda onto their kids.
Absolutely. Yeah, do what you love to do, you know, don't do what, you know, necessarily your parents are saying or what they
Yeah.
want you to do, you know. That those options will always be there.
Yeah.
I'd say, you know, take those chances, especially earlier on, for sure.
Yeah, like chances, there's a lot of chances that you get are like once in a lifetime, and a lot of the chances that you get young, you'll never get them when you're older. I
Mhm.
feel like, but you can always go back to school. You can always kind
Yeah.
of pivot your career. I mean, like right now, I think like the average person pivots 3 times in their career path or something like that.
Really?
Is something I was reading. Yeah, it's like slightly under 3. I want to say it's like 2.7 on average.
Mhm.
But like yeah, most people pivot their career multiple times. So I feel like as a kid, it's just like, yeah, go out and like celebrate, or like take that chance thing, like buying and selling some sneakers if you think that's cool, or
Yeah.
if you want to chase the art or the band side of things. Those are all really, really cool to me. It's just nice to see how kind of the culture around that has really changed. And yeah, millennials aren't paid enough, that's for sure, with
Mhm.
rising prices and everything. But I feel like one side of the pyramid is doing really well. If we can just get the other one up, I feel like that would be really, really good for people.
Absolutely. And I would also say, you know, it's not going to come easy as well.
Yeah.
You know, you know, even with like average mountain guys, like it's a lot of work. Like
Mhm.
even though I love to mountain bike and snowboard, like, and I want to pursue, you know, this brand, you know, it's a lot of work, and that's something that I love to do.
Yeah.
It's you got to work at it for sure. You know, you can't just start something and think it's, you know, gonna explode overnight. You know, sure it happens, but it really doesn't.
It's that old attitude. You gotta really, really love what you're doing if it's gonna become anything.
Yeah, and you know, it could take 5 years,
Yeah.
just because it's not happening in the first, you know, 2-3 months. You know, 2-3 years doesn't mean it's not gonna, you know, blow up in the 4th, 5th year.
Yeah. I think there's like so many tutorials online and like YouTube and everything that like every platform is just like, oh, how you could grow up to like 100,000 followers in your first year and everything. And like, I I feel like there's still a lot of people are just like, yeah, that's completely possible, which I'm not saying it's impossible, but I also think of like if you're trying to do that for like a small little hobby, I think it's eventually going to get to that point that you really hit that burnout. And most people don't realize like, yeah, it's possible to get that 100,000, but like the work that goes into it, like you're talking like even setting up for a shot and everything. And like, what if you're doing like a sport that requires like 7 or 8 angles, and you're just like, all right, hold up, guys, I got to set up all these cameras, kind of move them around. I'm thinking like how Dude Perfect like started off and everything. Like that started off with like they had a shit ton of like camera angles, and they talk about it all the time of like they just didn't want to do it anymore because it was just so much work. And now they kind of pivoted into a place where they're more happy and successful and yada yada yada. But they were also around for a really really fucking long time. And even like Mr. Beast, the prime example of like someone blowing up out of nowhere, but he always talks about it like he existed for like 5 years before people even knew he existed online.
Absolutely, yeah. And just because you hear these stories of these overnight successes, they're not overnight. That's just
they're overnight because it's the first time you saw them.
Exactly.
But they've been around for so much longer, and they've probably been grinding 10 times harder than at that point.
Absolutely, for sure.
I just find that's just really, really hopeful. So yeah, I want to kind of pivot back around to Average Mountain guys. In terms of kind of getting that going, like were your friends and family kind of like apprehensive of when you started talking to them, like I want to set up shots and everything to start doing this, or?
So I mean, in terms of just like when I designed the logo and like the kind of like the brand on like a vacation. Everyone just really liked the idea of the Average Mountain guys, and then when it comes to getting the shots and everything, I can't do it myself. We need if we're snowboarding, I need someone that can snowboard behind me, or if I'm the one filming, I need someone that is good enough to make it look like an interesting video. Yes, we're average, for sure. But I want it to have good content as well. And then you need to have another person over here, and sometimes I get people that are willing to do it. Other times they're like, no, like let's just go. I guess more specifically, if my brother's getting a lot of shout outs here, I'll have to share this with them. But sometimes I ask him, he's like, no. And then sometimes he's like super willing, he goes in and out. But I'm the same way when, in and out of like, super motivated to pursue something for Average Mountain guys, whether it's content, getting a photo or whatever it may be. And then, other days I'm just like, I don't care at this moment because I just want to enjoy life. So, we definitely go in and out of those phases. And, we are trying to build some sort of, structure where it's like, okay, let's be more consistent with this. Yes, this is something we want to do. Yes, we don't need to, make it our life, but, how could we be, more consistent with doing the things we want to get done so it does move forward?
Yeah. And do you feel like in general people were like receptive to those changes? Of like you trying to make it easier on you and them, or do in their mind did it just seem like it was just the same, like Luke wants me to help him do something?
Yeah, I mean, no, my friends are great. I mean, they all love AMG. Kind of the aspect. It's definitely fun because they're all part of it. We're all part of it. And if it does, say grow into this like business, they know, or at least they should know that they will be a part of it. If they want to be a part of it, they can be. I'm not looking to get, rich off of it. I'm just looking to mountain bike more.
Yeah, and there might come to a point that, like, even if it's a little bit of side cash, like, that's awesome.
So I guess the question, do they get annoyed? I'm not sure. I hope not, because, sometimes it's like, you could do this, but, like, you really don't feel like you have to. Usually they're pretty helpful. But, everyone wants to be the main person of like snowboarding, they want to be the one like that's on the camera. So it's fun, it's hard, but overall, we're taking it light, and just the idea is we just need to keep moving forward with it, because I think it's great, honestly.
Yeah. And do you personally enjoy more being like the person behind the scenes kind of coordinating things, or do you more like being in the shots and such?
I like both.
Okay.
Honestly, both.
Completely
is-
acceptable answer.
Yeah, I really do like both. Because not my friends aren't necessarily designers, so they don't necessarily work with cameras,
Yeah.
or do graphics and stuff like that. So I kind of have to take that upon myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mind doing the shots, but
Yeah.
sometimes I do want to be that snowboarder that's
Yeah,
getting the trick off, or doing some slashes in the snow.
Mhm.
So I do really like kind of both ends.
Nice. Yeah, and I feel like it's like really cool to not only just like one aspect of it, but you like A through Z to some extent,
Mhm.
and being able to find your place into it.
Absolutely.
Um,
The whole process.
Yeah, I feel like that's really, really important. If there's like a section of you don't like, and it's like your end goal is to make it into something, I feel like eventually it'll get to the point that that's just like burning you out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna kind of wrap us up here with one more question. Is like, if you were to kind of tell someone that wanted to do something akin to like Average Mountain Guys and everything, like, what would be like, let's say like your top 3 things? What would you tell them?
I guess like so someone starting a brand.
Yes,
In particular.
like say it was yourself
Mhm.
all the way back when Average Mountain Guys like initially started. Like,
Mhm.
what do you think you would tell yourself now that you've come or this far? I'm still relatively small, but you've obviously learned a lot.
Yeah. Be passionate. Definitely one. Very big. Be willing to work, hard after hours for whatever that, brand or product is.
Mhm.
Have that time structure where you are, spending time and actually, taking action. Talking is one thing, but taking
Yeah.
action is completely, different. And it's a lot harder than it is.
Uh-huh.
And then I think the third one, I had one, but I forgot that.
That's all right. You can shoot off whatever comes to mind.
Yeah. So yeah, hard work and be passionate, and don't think it's gonna happen overnight.
Yeah.
It's gonna take some time. You need to build. You got to work at it. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Might take 5 years. It might not ever happen, but at least you did it, and you can say, okay, it didn't quite work, but you enjoyed the process. You learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll add one more. Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Actually, failing fast is a great thing.
You learn so much more like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fail fast and then act quicker.
Mhm.
And, it probably will work.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are some awesome points. It's been awesome having you on here. Yeah, so everybody at home, thanks so much for kind of tuning in for this episode of the podcast. A little bit of a different one. Not really talking about like what is 52 Launch and like what does everybody do here. More talking about like what does it really mean to be an entrepreneur, and basically comparing like what does Luke do on the side versus what does our client do on the side, and kind of talking about the different avenues that entrepreneurs have kind of used to get to a point that they're happy, profitable, et cetera, et cetera. If you liked it, go ahead and subscribe, follow us. We're on all the major social media platforms, and subscribe to the YouTube. That would be super helpful for us. And I hope you guys have a good night, and we'll see you next time.